All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, the Bad Luck Gamer, with my co-host Glueboy.
Hello.
And I think we have a very obviously interesting stream to talk about today. But while everyone is jumping into the chat, we take about, the first 20 minutes or so to just kind of gab about while people are jumping in. So this is your first time checking out the stream, or post the fact, check in about the 25-minute mark as usual when we get started. But before any of that, so Alex, what's been up?
Profoundly not too much. I've mainly just been dealing with the fact that work is tiring, and now that I'm not gonna have to deal with digging up. I've been tasked with landscaping at my job. Now I don't have to do that anymore, and I'm very happy because by the time I go back to work this weekend, the job will be done. So I'm happy. But that's literally all I've been doing. Because I do that, I go home, and then I'm like tired. And then in the meantime, I did a Tian Sha video, which I'm very proud of. The Tian Sha video is fun, and it's been doing decently. I'm happy with its performance. It's been growing.
Yeah, it was a very fun video. I watched it. It was good.
I like it was a genuinely hard pick. There are way too many places in there that are cool.
Yeah.
Like the Wall of Heaven, I think is what it was called. That was a very cool region. Like, so dope. I really love like the Goblin Conquerors. They're also really cool. There's just so many places. But I'm getting back into 40k. That's what I've been doing, just reading about 40k, because I'm like, I've made too many non-40k stuff. I gotta go back to I gotta
go back to your roots. Yeah,
I gotta do that. I can't leave my 40k fans in the dust.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been really thinking about getting my army painted up too.
Yeah.
Need to try it. Though it's so bizarre because I heard lots of good things about 10th edition, but 10th edition seems to just kill it for everyone.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
It depends. So 10th edition, from what I know of, and I haven't played 10th edition, I know a lot of people who do, and have talked with a lot of people who are deep in the competitive scene. I'm just in that circle. 10th edition currently is in that boat of like, there's a lot of people who hate it, and then there's a lot of people who are in the position of it's solid, and it'll improve as it goes on. Because 8th edition, 9th edition had that as well, where it's like there's some bumps, but it'll improve as it goes on with erratas and stuff. They streamlined a lot of it. Like, the game runs way smoother. The problem is, in streamlining your army, they also killed everything that makes your army an individual army.
Yeah.
So, like, sub-armies aren't a thing anymore.
Yeah, they overly homogenized.
Yeah, so there's no such thing as like, I am running a recent example when I was talking to somebody in my community. I am running Ravenwing Dark Angels, or I am running, or even like I'm running Dark Angel Space Marines. No, you are running a specific battle company, like a style of army that are Space Marines that are happen to be painted like Dark Angels.
Yeah.
That is what you're doing. And it's not great, since all of the fun of 40k for the past 30 years is the individuality of your army. And then they kind of removed it.
Yeah, it's
a bit weird.
They took a step in the right direction, and then it feels like they took 2 steps back. It's
a little bit. I like how the stat blocks are all very much improved. Individual models and stats, so much better. I think the removing of army options, I think, crippled it. I like a lot of the other changes though. Yeah, that I think is a way of putting it, is like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I mean, obviously, I haven't really played all too much, but at the very least, who knows? By the time I actually get to play, which isn't going to be anytime soon, I can't imagine. Maybe things will be better. Also, just haven't heard how Thousand Sons are doing. It's such a underused army. It feels like, even though I know it's not. You just don't hear anything about Thousand Sons ever.
They were very dominant near the tail end of ninth. Uh, because Thousand Sons had a skill curve, like a really big skill curve, which is the reason I suggested you should play them.
Yeah.
Because in playing them, I was like, man, I love Thousand Sons. They're my second favorite Chaos Army. Or really like third. They're top. They're one of my favorites. But in playing them, I'm like, I don't fuck with this. This is too much thinking. I know who would, because it's 100% your playstyle in like in other games. Competitively for a while, they were doing very well. In 10th, I'd have to double check the current tournament standings because they really messed with how psychic stuff works.
Yeah. Never played 40k myself, but do you paint your army for the funsies, or is there a game mechanical reason you have to do so? I think in tournament play they have to be painted.
Yes. So it's a bit of both. So there is the first part of there's something known as battle ready, where you have you get points in tournament. I think it's like 20 points, which is pretty significant to not have. You need 3 base colors on your mini and for your entire army for it to be counted as battle ready. And that's complete coverage. You cannot have like gray, like undercoat. So no like just normal plastic sticking through. Other than that, you paint up your army and you're like, yeah, I'm playing Thousand Sons, but then if your models are like, iron warriors, it's a little weird. But it's to like signify which faction you're actually playing is the other fact. Everything else though is for funsies, like completely artistic expression. The tournament stuff is just to make sure that you're rolling up and not with just like I built the kit and that's it. Because there's a lot of stuff that is pure army flipping, where the top players will like really stock what's doing good. They will buy that army, build up the like competitive shit, and then the moment it drops in the meta, they will sell everything and buy the new top thing. Which is actually where a lot of where Games Workshop makes its money, is meta chasers.
Yeah, I mean, there's that stuff too. Orcs are fun in general, but
They're super fun.
I don't think that's actually an army thing. I don't think you can paint their vehicles red and they get faster or whatever.
No, the orc stuff, like the orc color thing, like collective belief, is all it is a lore tidbit that is to legitimize a game mechanic of sub-factions. That is all that is. Because every orc clan likes a color. There's an orc clan that likes red, there's an orc clan that likes blue, and so on. It is a game mechanic that has a lore tidbit. It's literally just like, what sub-faction are you? Which isn't even really a thing anymore. Though I will say, if you really love the hobby side, like you really like just building minis, orc kits are the absolute best for kit bashing. Because orc kits come with so many extra bits and just extra random crap that orc kits are really well built to just kind of mash together in hodgepodge stuff because you just make some weird garbage truck. Sure, you can use like the normal truck that comes with it, but also if it's completely fine to get like another toy truck or model tank to rip it apart and then build it back together with orc parts, because that is what in canon orcs would do, and it would look proper orky and be tournament legal. As long as it is the same size and fits on the same base size, everything is very okay. I think the actual rule is it has to be 60 or 70% Games Workshop plastic.
Also, Xylem Carius, that is the link to the, it's like a 3.5 hour? No, just 3 hour synthwave mix I use. I use the same one for every stream, though. And Nicholas came in swinging against Guardian. We're not quite there yet, but I get where you're coming from. Well, as far as what I've been doing, since we kind of got tangented into Warhammer, I was really sick this weekend. Like Friday.
Yeah, you were.
Friday, I woke up and I was like, I'm fine. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get my my theory video out for the new classes, and then I just started progressively feeling worse and worse and worse, and I decided not to do anything. Then I got really sick. And I had like a fever, my throat was rough, super snotty. The snot is the worst part. There's so many other parts of being sick I would rather have than just tons of snot. It's the worst. And then Monday, which was like my last day / recovery day, I didn't even really get to do that because I had to stream this playtest stuff coming out. So, hope that you're healing well, mate. Yeah, I'm doing fine now. I'm doing great. I started this week off literally like, all right, got shit to do, and then I've been just doing nothing but hustling ever since. I didn't do a video on Tuesday, but we still had our live play because I just didn't want it to get shadowed by the live play. And then I did 2 hour-long videos over the 2 classes these last couple days. Yes, I've had lots of lemon and mostly honey tea, but that one gets recommended a lot. Everyone says it every time. You say like, oh, my throat. Everyone's just like, tea, drink it, lemon, honey,
drink it. The cowards not recommending whiskey.
Right.
The cowards.
Honest, I had some mics left at that point, and I drank it, and that actually really helped. So getting a little boozy does help.
It's true. The other bit is just being drunk, at least a little bit. It does help. I will say the burn of a nice whiskey messes with your throat. And I also finally tracked it down, not pulling it back to Warhammer, just find the last little tidbit. I finally tracked down a good source on it. To answer a question you posed, Cam, Thousand Sons have the 4th highest win rate in the game currently.
Yeah, and that's the thing. No one talks about it. I never hear anyone talk about it, though. It's so weird.
They're really fucking strong and really goofy, but I think the current highest right now is Necrons, because Necrons are usually really dominant.
I've been hearing a lot about Necrons, yeah.
Necrons and Eldar. It's just Necrons are, when they're good, they're really good. They have a lot of goofy bullshit that they do, and their guns hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Thousand Sons players, they just keep their secrets to themselves. No one ever shares the secrets. They just come to tournaments, do well, and then disappear, and no one knows how. They just do well.
It's the secrets kept for the Cabal.
Yeah, exactly.
They must hoard the psychic knowledge for themselves.
I have to join this cabal of 1,000 some players. I need to know. Funny enough, though, speaking on Warhammer, I started playing Rogue Trader again. I never finished it.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, you know what? I've been really feeling the urge to play it, and honestly, it's a good game still. I just have an attention span problem where if I stop playing something for long enough, I just can't play it again. So
I'm similar. And have you already noticed, like, it's the thing I was telling you, like all the updates where it's like, oh, these are so like quality of life.
I haven't noticed, to be honest.
What? The level up screen is like, the level up feats are so easier to like scroll through. They actually separated them in the giant text box.
Yeah, I don't know.
They like separated out.
Nothing I noticed.
There's the other bit that because there's the whole part about like early on you're meant to be like possessed or something with a psychic with a warp entity, and it actually has a presence in your in the story. Like it intercedes in you after the prologue.
I haven't played too much. I'm still on Janice.
That's fair.
So
yeah, it like every once in a while you make decisions and the little warp entity in your head gets upset. And I also just adore the part where it is way more overt with like highlighted text telling you the outcome of your actions. Like when something comes up that's like, oh, a decision you made is the reason for this. I'm a big fan of that.
You haven't noticed, but I just haven't really done too much, honestly. It's been a few hours here or there. So, oh well. But I'll probably get to that stuff before too long. But yeah, so it's just been hustle, 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 and then a little bit of Rogue Trader on the side. I really want to play a good co-op Rogue Trader run. It's just so hard. It's so long, but oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
it's really fun, and like the co-op combat works so well. It is also like they put out a big survey, like taking a lot of feedback for the game, and one of the pieces of feedback I put out is like, I love the game, but one of my pieces of feedback is that the game has way too fucking many combat encounters. I'm gonna be honest. Like, it I think they could have spaced it out because the game has so many like fight 20 small level dudes. It's like, okay,
Yeah, but that's kind of the
fun
fantasy of Warhammer stuff, is mowing
a
down hordes of
bit,
enemies.
but like after I do that 10 times in a row, I it loses its luster a little bit cuz like I it just has so many encounters where I think they could cut a good couple of like some fights where I'm like, there's like the big giant set piece fights where I'm like, oh, this fight rules. And then there's a couple fights where I'm like, was this necessary? Did you need this one? Because like I'm thinking of Janus, like the Forest of Janus, where you have like the giant fight, that's like you start on like the top of that village and you like are working your way down, and then like at the end the Eldar show up, like
Yeah,
on top of the buildings. Like that fight rules.
that's a
But
good
then
one.
like partway through, you have your second encounter with like the monsters. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
like, do we need the second time? The first time said in that the wildlife is being corrupted. Do we need the second one? It's not even any like skill checks or dialogue about this. It's just they pop up.
Yeah. It's just
It is a
another fight.
game. It's just a game where also like combat doesn't waste your resources. So it's like it is just time that you're spending.
Well,
That
I
was
mean,
a
if someone goes down,
piece
they could be injured.
yeah, true. But it was like a feedback that they actually brought it up in the survey of like, do you think the game has too many encounters? And I was like, yes. And I think that you can cut at least a chunk, like not all of them, just like there's a good couple of fights that I think you could cut, and it wouldn't really impact.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, there's definitely some chat that can be cut. All right, we're pretty much at the time. So let's go ahead and start. And you know what? It seems like Guardian is the topic. I was going to start with Guardian anyway, so it's just convenient that people were talking about Guardian. Let's talk Guardian. So, the main complaint with Guardian I've been seeing all over the place is its slow weapon proficiency increase. Getting the expert at 7 and master at is 17, I believe. Which is
yeah, 17.
2 levels later more than most classes. That's the biggest complaint I've been seeing. And I'm gonna say it right now. I don't have a problem with that for classes, because if you play Pathfinder right, it's not a problem. And also, not every fight you're doing should be against enemies of your level, you know. Against bosses, it's rough, true, but against bosses, your biggest contributing factor is your damage mitigation.
Yeah, and like I don't know the comparison between other classes, but like you are getting legendary armor at 15.
Yeah, you're getting... Well, okay, now that's a different part, and that's something that a lot of people have been bringing very justifiably up to talking, and I talked about it in my video as well. So, better armor proficiency gains than other classes. Cool, you know. It's cool to have that fantasy of I'm really hard to hurt slash kill, and I think the Guardian does this really well. The problem is there are two class features that they are like supposed to be using. Is one, I take the shot for my ally, completely negating the reason of having AC in the first place. And two, taunting an enemy, giving them a bonus to hit you, completely getting rid of the purpose of having a higher proficiency than anyone else. So what is the point of having a higher proficiency? And the answer to this is, one, you're not taunting every enemy. And two, enemies will still need to kill you. Everyone likes to think this idea of like, oh, the enemies will just not try to kill the Guardian. Like, why? If the Guardian is trying to kill them, why would they not want to kill them, you know? If a beast is attacking the party, it's not going to know the difference. So, most of the time, the Guardian is just harder to take down. And there's actual multiple ways to play Guardian without even really relying on taunting. And honestly, the intercept blow is a once per round thing, and there's so much more damage potentially coming out that, like, I'm not super plus by it. So I think a lot of people are just really taking very worst case scenario disingenuous takes on the Guardian, but I do think that there is definitely what feels like clash of design that the class is having with itself, which is like have really high AC, but so many features negate the bonus. So negate the bonus and or completely ignore it.
Which makes sense to like throw a lot of that in a playtest, because that's the role of a playtest like this, is you throw all this in, and then in mass play, all of us can interact with these tools and figure out like, is this actually working? Is this moving together? Or is there a gear in this big machine that is kind of just free spinning, not touching anything? Like that's kind of the point. Because I saw a write-up that I thought was interesting, because I kept seeing a lot of the feedback like on Twitter and the subreddit, where it's people really interacting with Guardian under the assumption that you're trying to taunt like every enemy, or like taunt every situation in like every turn. And it's like, no, it seems like these two class features is stuff you're gonna use, but it's just taunt is something you do, like a creature within 30 feet, and you're also can possibly waste a creature's action with that, since they have to take a stride action towards you. And even more if you take the long distance taunt feature, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Which I think that's the bit I adore about Guardian. I think that Guardian, like, you can say it's like class features clash, but then like I think Guardian has some of the most fun feats I've read through in a long while. These feats are fantastic.
They do have some good choice ones, and I will say taunts is genuinely one of the most powerful debuffs when you get the ability to taunt multiple people at the same time. You can taunt 3 people at once. That's 3 enemies with a -1 or higher penalty, hopefully, if they don't crit, to their attacks and their DCs. So when you get that 3-person taunt is massive. That's a huge debuff on multiple people. And it works on mindless creatures too. So, you know, Frightens does not necessarily always work on mindless creatures. So it's just always useful. But I think the base level taunt is not great. I think, and not only that, I've been corrected many times. I don't like the different taunt subclasses, because the mitigation one only is on crit hits against you. It's not even like all hits against you for base damage mitigation. So it's like, it's not oh, I just take less damage against my taunted target, which I thought was cool, and that's why, you know, like, I have dyslexia, so sometimes I just skip words in various things. That happens a lot, as a lot of people have been pointing out. because I can comprehend 90% of it, but that one word always gets me. But the mitigation one is only against crits, so it's rather than being like something cool, it's something that makes it suck less when you get crit more often. Though a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just gonna get crit more often because I'm taunting. That's not, you have the same AC as pretty much anyone else does, besides maybe a champion. When you're taunting. Like, that's the point. So
also, if you're wearing like big, probably heavier armor than most people in the party, your like armor proficiency is leveling up faster. So like, if anything, that -2 is just bringing you in line with your party.
Yeah.
So like, I don't agree with that.
And also, people just like seem to like gloss over the fact that it's only against the taunted target. So you still have better AC to everything else. So yeah, I mean, like, it's not as big a deal as a lot of people are kind of making it out to be. And then the Vengeance one is okay. It kind of makes you do more damage if they ignore you. Which is, I mean, a good reason to try to focus you in combat, and then, you know, then they start attacking you, I suppose. But the Vengeance one is only like just a slight band-aid on the fact that you get your weapon specialization so much, like 4 levels later than every other class does, really. Which is painful, because that the small damage bumps are a lot. So I don't know. See, when you compare it to Commander feels good because they fixed what makes support bad in a lot of TTRPGs, which is you support rather than doing anything else. Commander oftentimes gets to participate in their own tactics, which is really fun. Guardian, unfortunately, doesn't get that same kind of feeling more often than not, because they're just kind of a step behind. And, well, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. So, like, my fix for Guardian, I mentioned in the video, literally automatic scale progression for athletics, first of all. Because they can use athletics for so many of their feats. So, like, why not? And then just make being a Guardian mostly about doing, like, tripping and repositioning and whatever. Because, honestly, a lot of their feats are already like that. Flying Kick, one of my favorite feats, is literally it's just a trip. It's just a long-distance trip.
Shoulder check. Like, there's a lot of stuff that is about, like, really pushing around and like using almost like your armored mass against targets. Like, I do agree, because I think that's the big takeaway from a lot of this, is that Commander, I think, is the shining child from these two class playtests. Like, Commander, I think, is the stronger initial class. Like, when I look at this, and I'm also coming at this from someone who adores the Guardian. I think the Guardian rules completely. It is my favorite class compared to these two. Commander, objectively an interesting class. Not my playstyle. I don't think I'm going to play one in any variety. I look at Commander and I'm like, that'll be fun for someone else to deal with. And I'm not like inspired when I read it. When I read Guardian, I'm like, character ideas, character idea, character idea. Because like Bodyguard Guardian, Vengeance Guardian, unarmed unarmed Juggernaut Guardian. Like, there's just a lot of build potentials that I see inside of this that look really fun to like mess around with. Because it's like, there's the bones here of a tank class that is right up my alley, like my exact play style that I would enjoy significantly more than like Champion. Because I want a non-magic tank class. I don't want to deal with like the magical divinity stuff of of champion. It does need a tune-up, and I think that idea would be a lot more fun because it really does seem like it wants to be that bully character. It's like it wants to just really grab and just shake the enemy violently.
Yeah, and I think that's the route they should go. I think they should just make it the de facto. I want to rough the enemy up. Like, my whole job is to be the biggest nuisance on the battlefield, while still maintaining like their actual defender qualities, like being able to intercept blows and all that kind of stuff. I mean, even taunt, like I said, if you get the 3-person taunt becomes vastly stronger. But then, you need a feat to make taunt good in a lot of situations.
Which I'm not completely against, like taunt not being like the greatest thing, because like I like a class feature at level 1 needing a bit of improvement as you level. Fair enough. I do agree that taunt could use a bit of a tune up. But yeah, it does need like a feat as you level. It doesn't mean that there's a level there's a must take feat as it
Honestly,
goes on.
taunt would just be better if mitigation did what I thought it did, which is just give you straight up damage mitigation against all the enemies, all your taunted enemies' damage, and actually just leave vengeance the same, only just don't make it require the enemy use hostile actions against other people. Just make it where you're taunting the enemy and you're either posing as a threat or you're buckling down and getting ready to defend yourself.
Yeah.
That's my way. Thank you, Roshai, for the follow. Give automatic athletics progression. And there's no hard taunt in the game. The taunt is more of like a slight incentive, which is okay. I played the Guardian 16 times in random combats from APs. The Guardian is weird class. No other class, when played poorly, actually hurts your party. No other class. So how is it actually hurting your party? Also, it's been like 4 days. How in any capacity did you play 16 encounters in a legitimate fashion? And hi, Roche, it's going good. Even when a fighter stands still and strikes 3 times, they don't expend party resources. What resources is Guardian expending?
Yeah, that's unless when an enemy runs by, there's like a forced opportunity attack with reactions, but that's not every class has that, like reactive strike. Like that's the only one I can even like consider. Or unless like healing resources to keep Guardian alive. I don't know. Like those are the only ideas I can even think of like what resources that could be implying.
Yeah, that's what Dead Phoenix says. The only resource Commander expends is healing. And actually, in my video, a really good point of Champions Intercepts is they consolidate damage onto a single target, which is vastly easier to heal for healers. I have to ask the armor break feat, why? Armor break is funny. It
is funny.
It's a very meme one, but yeah, it's kind of bad. I don't know why you would take it, to be honest.
I think like the idea is to flex out of your armor, make it like temporarily lighter armor to go faster. That's a cool concept. They need to fix that up a bit more. When I read it, I'm like, that's really funny.
Yeah, it's really funny, but I
don't think I take
bad.
it, but that's funny.
I mean, okay, so like if it wasn't once per turn, or if it just was like you just do extra damage now, but your armor is broken, I would be happy with it. but for a one-time use, negating the majority of what your class favors, which is armor, kind of dumb, kind of
A
really
little.
silly.
Like I could see the idea of like you have a thing that like you can lower your armor penalty, like you make it faster, and I don't know, it changes how like some stuff interacts. I get that. It seems like it meshes with like everything else. Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah. I love Guardian. I think it's just interesting that I can taunt at a very bad time and hurt yourself because of it. I mean, you're actually not hurting yourself because worst case scenario, you're getting the same AC as everyone else. You're just choosing not to have your benefit for whatever reason.
I do get what people are saying. Like I get the idea because taunt is, I think, most opportune if you're trying to taunt an enemy at range. Because if you're taunting an enemy that's like right next to you, like that's already probably going to hit you, maybe not the greatest idea, but like there is an opportunity to do that. Like if an enemy is right next to you and you're adjacent to like a squishy wizard or sorcerer, and there's the chance that they could swing out and hurt them, using your taunt there, I think, is a fair like reason. And then to like just to also then if they ignore that, you can then also use your reactive strike. It like it works around that. There's chances to do it, but also like your taunt has the chance of like if you use it at range, you're also wasting a situation of like, okay, now they gotta move to me, and now I can like set stuff up in this way. There's methods to make it work. I don't know, like I think there's other elements of like I'm wasting party resources by being hit. I could say the same thing about champion if I'm playing a tank champion, because my role is to get hit. As a barbarian, my role is to get hit and mitigate damage by taking hits other people can't take. So in that same vein, I'm also wasting party resources by being hit. The difference is that Guardian, as like a stated class like design, is trying to do that. When instead other classes have builds that the class isn't trying to do that. There are builds that are trying to do that.
Yeah. And yeah, Nicholas, what Definitive said. Yeah, but you're giving everyone else better armor. That's the number one reason. There are tons of monster abilities that attack multiple targets in range. In which case, taunting the enemy becomes really good because you're increasing the chance of the enemy missing other people could possibly reach. So, this is the thing, right? Guardian seems like it should be a very simple class, but people are forgetting pieces of the puzzle when they're addressing individual parts. They're like, I don't like taunt because it reduces my AC. Yeah, but it reduces the enemies, not only their ability to hit other people, but their DCs as well. And the DC part is insane because, strangely enough, you taunt the poisonous enemy, its poison is somehow less effective. Which is goofy. But mechanically, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
Like, and not only that, but it can be up to -3 if they crit fail the check. So it's either -1 or -2, like 50% of the time, with another 5-ish% of the time being either does nothing or -3, which is absolutely terrible. So taunt isn't bad. Taunting an enemy that you're right adjacent to isn't bad. Granted, if you're going vengeance, it's probably not a good idea if it was going to hit you anyway. But if you're mitigation, then, you know, against boss enemies who are higher level than you and just are more likely to crit anyway, then honestly doing it is just saving you damage you would probably end up taking regardless, because you get the damage mitigation on crit. So
yeah. And also like there's also a lot of stuff when it's talking about like, yeah, the lower weapon proficiency, which I get, like having the slightly lower number sucks, but also like just stand behind them. You know, like make the enemy flat-footed. There's actually a decent amount of ways as Guardian to flat-foot your enemies.
Off guard.
Yeah, off guard. You can off guard your enemies in so many ways. There's You could get a magic weapon that increases your attack proficiency. Because what, isn't the difference of the proficiencies a literal +2?
Yeah, it's just two difference.
Yeah,
But everyone also gets magic weapons, so that's not really a
true.
good way to close the gap. Again, the benefit of Guardian is its pure damage mitigation and damage consolidation, because it mitigates the same amount of damage as Champion does, but it consolidates on one person, which, if anyone's played Cleric, you know damage on one person is so much easier to deal with than damage on everyone else. The number of overhealing you can do on Cleric with just a single 2-action heal is so strong. So
It is ridiculous, actually. Some of those cleric healing capabilities. It's fucking nuts.
sure,
And
flying
also
tackle
that
every round. Why are you even playing Guardian? Exactly.
true. See, it's that stuff where I'm looking at people hate on Guardian, and I'm like, are we looking at the same class? Because flying tackle exists. Where I'm like, are we looking at the same ping pong Guardian concepts and not thinking this is the most fun character stuff ever? Because this looks so fun. I understand if there's some stuff that needs to be adjusted, which for everyone that has those issues, make sure in the playtest at the top of it they link a survey link. Go
Yes.
actually tell Paizo about all that. Go communicate with the company that could address these issues, and we'll see what they adjust. Because that's what a playtest is for. This is not the final incarnation of it.
How much is the Guardian self-mitigation, and how does it deal versus multiple energy damage? It depends. Are we talking about the mitigation taunts tactic? Because it does against all types of damage, from a crit specifically. If we're talking about just its general damage mitigation, you can only technically jump in the way of physical attacks, but you can get a feat to jump in the way of energy attacks eventually, which honestly, they could just make it jump in the way of an attack or whatever. I think it'd be fine. The specification of energy is, it sounds like a feat tax. So the big thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is how Paizo has algorithms and calculations that determine group effectiveness based on damage input output, right? So you have a class that has really good damage mitigation, like general damage mitigation / consolidation. So what does that mean? The group is very powerful. So how do you balance it? You reduce damage output a little bit, so it does not as much damage. It's gonna miss a little bit more, and it's gonna crit a little bit less, but you're still going to be hitting, and you're still going to be good against enemies that, most anyone is good at anyway. But the big thing is you're mitigating damage that your team is taking, which is good. He's taunting the enemy, and they're focusing him. How hard is actually to take him down? Actually, depending on your feats and abilities, it's very, very hard. So first of all, just as a general feature, Guardian gets Die Hard, which means they need to go to dying 5 rather than 4. Also, once per day, if they would go from dying 2 to 3, they don't. So they just don't go down again, or they just don't get closer to death again. They also just have a feat that just essentially gives you 50% more HP. Yet you use it when you're at half HP, but then you just get essentially half your HP and temp HP, and it lasts for a minute. So yeah, also they start with armor specialization, which means their resistance to a type of damage, of one of the physical types of damage, which are the most common in the game, meaning that against a large number of enemies, and honestly, probably piercing is the most common, so that's probably the one you should go for, but if you go slashing, it would be just as good. Bludgeoning is also good, but I think it's not as common as the other two. I don't know the numbers, though. You're mitigating damage every time you're hit, so your health is actually gets like a multiplicative bonus based on the number of hits you receive. So yeah, even if you are just being hit as the Guardian, you're really hard to put down. Insanely hard to put down. I feel like defensive swap should be a Guardian feat, if not an alternative version of Intercept Strike. It's the same thing. The only thing that the Commander feat does is that one specifically lets you swap with, so either one of you can take the hit.
Oh yeah, true.
But like, the whole point of the Guardian is to take hits. So
not just like switch who takes the hit, like, because the commander could then switch it so then the Guardian gets hit instead of him.
So all the self-defense that reduces the effectiveness of damage on him over a champion is in the feats? No. They get armor specialization just flat out, which is damage reduction. Their intercept ability is just damage mitigation. Yeah, sure, they do have more damage mitigation in their kit, and they do have tankiness feats in their kit. But flat out, if you're just looking at classes face to face, Guardian negates more damage than Champion does. Plain and simple.
Because I know Champion is a tank class, but it also is built out to like be also like a support class. It's a tanky support class, right? That's more what it's designed to be.
I mentioned defensive swap because it can make use of the Guardian's Bonkers AC. I mean, there's that too. And I mean, technically, you could always just multi-class into Commander to pick it up anyway. But I think it's for that reason why it shouldn't be a feature on Guardian, at least natively so. Guardian doesn't need the enemy and ally to be within 15 feet. I mean, if you're gonna mix semantics, they kind of. They kind of do and they kind of don't. The ally needs to be at least adjacent, which I would say is more difficult than having the 15 foot. But yeah, Champion is just the better damage mitigator overall. Taunt against adjacent bosses protects. So these are a lot of bad faith takes, and you gotta understand that like this can be said about a lot of different things, you know. Like Champion can't protect itself. Champion can't guard itself. So you could just say Champion should never be adjacent to the boss because they're better at mitigating damage to other people. Right? Taunt against adjacent bosses, protect squishies isn't always a good idea. You lose an action, they might succeed on the saves, so less penalty attacking allies, and they get the +2 against you still. What do you mean you lose an action? You're using the action.
What else would you use it for? Because I mean, you don't want to attack 3 times in a round. That's primarily like that's always the noob trap that people always like meme about, is like, don't stand still, attack 3 times. This ain't D&D.
I mean, it just you lose the action silly because you're using the action, so there's nothing lost. Yeah, they could succeed. Yeah, they could crit succeed. The crit succeed part kind of sucks. They could remove that on top, and I feel like that would be better. But it's not. It's very much not that likely anyway. They still get a penalty to hit anyone else, which can be the difference between not only just a hit but a crit as well, which is massive. And they get a +2 against you, which just makes you as easy to hit as anyone else. So what did you lose other than the fact that actually you just made the boss have a harder time hitting anyone else? Honestly. With a chance of making it worse. And to be fair, Michael, I'm not like necessarily being like putting you down or anything else. It's just you're putting an argument up, so I'm counter arguing. That's what, plain and simple. Guardian also has the nutty ability to shield block and intercept strike at 8th level at the earliest. Mega damage mitigation. True. Yeah, I
Oh yeah,
mean,
the ray shield bit, which is very cool. And actually, when like in reading this, because I know you mentioned that like you've play tested Guardian, uh, and what it sounds like, I mean, it makes sense if there's an element that what the boss is taunted, swings at an ally, and then use their second attack to swing on Guardian. Like, yeah, fair enough, makes sense. I do think that it does also make sense that Guardian's taunt then might be, maybe it's just not the greatest thing to use against the boss enemy.
well, and okay, and this also kind of goes into the thing of like swashbucklers shouldn't always finish her every round because people are trying to squeeze out every damage die they can out of a swashbuckler when that's not really what a finisher's designed to do in the first place. It's not meant to be a damage rotation. It's supposed to be the fight's coming to an end. I'm going to get as much out of my panache as possible by adding to my damage.
Yeah.
That's what a finisher is supposed to be. Taunt is let me give a reason for the enemy to target me by making my allies harder to hit, because over and over I've said that your AC because of taunting drops to about the same level as everyone else. That's actually not true, because if you succeed, then and actually, you know what? I think I might have discovered an interesting aspect to this as well. But since the enemy has a -1 to hit anyone else, technically, you're the easiest one to hit on the battlefield when you use this. Unless, of course, it's a super squishy, who, you know, the AC difference isn't going to be much of a thing. But against, like, other people on the front line, you become a more valid target legitimately. And even if you don't, it's just a one action debuff that you can keep applying round after round if you really want to, which is really strong. You know,
Yeah.
Any class can demoralize every round. I mean, like, think about it, right? Anyone could demoralize if they just put in some points of charisma. Why aren't they demoralizing every round? You know, other than the fact that demoralize can't be used multiple times against the same enemy in a fight, typically. Yeah, funny enough, if they crit succeed the taunt, they don't get the +2 against you. Funny enough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the at least in play then, one thing I can at least understand the use case like in this current iteration of the Guardian, because who knows if it'll be adjusted as time goes on. Because I can see if I can very much understand that Paizo will adjust and shift. Like Guardian then in that case does sound like you're probably not actively taunting the boss every turn. But then it also sounds like Guardian is doing some fantastic damage mitigation against like all the ads or range stuff of just like being the nuisance against all the archers in the backline that might be targeting your healer, which is great. You want that, because that would be annoying. I don't want my cleric getting shot in the face with arrows. That sounds like a good use case for that.
Well, and plus they have a feat specifically that just increases their AC by 4. Also, for those of everyone who's complaining about their AC problems, they have a stance that lets them have their shield raised all the time without spending actions.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that one.
And it works really, really well with, guess what? Tower shields. And you know what tower shields are really good for? You can then take cover and you get a +4 AC bonus, making you insanely tanky.
The only thing that then Guardian needs to add is they need to add the double shield weapon stuff. I need to double shield stance. I need to like Dark Souls turtle this. Which, yeah, I mean, that'd be ridiculous. Like full shield Guardian sound like, when I was reading through that, I'm like, yeah, Guardian with shield is ridiculous. Are there shield weapons in Pathfinder?
You can get shield like spikes or whatever, so that you can attack with your shield.
It'll be fun. I've just been hyper focused on like wrestler guardian, which is the vibe I'd go for, because it's like, well, sure, I might not hit as good, but why would I need to care about that if I suplex somebody to the ground? That's to me sounds like the fix.
And I mean,
Yeah, like,
yeah, Oi Man, of course, Fighter has the feat as well. But you know what Fighter doesn't have? Improved AC bonus and crit armor or armor specialization. So,
but fighter with I mean, yeah, fighter has that stuff, but you will be tankier in the end.
and I mean, like, I don't know. So, like, Guardian, I think the problem is that Guardian applies to a metric on combat balance that is just not as visible to players in the end, because of their sheer damage mitigation. Like, people don't realize the strongest class in Pathfinder is champion, because of its huge damage. Like, the way it tips damage scaling in combat is insane. And Michael Sayers said this. He's had like this big long Twitter thread about it. Is that champion is so strong because, one, not only is it like just insanely good at mitigating tons of damage with not too much requirements, but its innate healing ability with Lay on Hands is also just really, really good. And in combination with like some of their base features, they're really good, and they change most battles out because they let other characters do damage with less chance of going down. Essentially, you keep more of your team alive for more of the fight, which means you do more damage overall. And the Guardian plays the same exact role, which is your job is to be there and to mitigate a bunch of damage. And then, like Dead Phoenix has said multiple times, you can just use athletic maneuvers, which are so game changing. Flying kick ability for you to just be a ranged tripper is insane. You just run, leap at an enemy, and trip them is hilarious. Just imagine you just kicking their ankle, and
Yeah.
if you succeed, you get a crit. Also, there's ways where you can shove and do damage simultaneously. They have so many ways of positively affecting the combat without doing straight damage, and they still tend to add a little bit of extra damage on top. This all on top of the fact that, one, they're insanely hard to kill, and two, they make their team insanely hard to kill. Like, for instance, right? You're fighting a boss. The boss wants to kill your, I don't know, wants to kill your fighter who's going like a dex fighter and isn't wearing a lot of armor, right? When you're standing next to your fighter, one, you negate one attack. Two, you make the next attack they try against the fighter a -5, maybe 4 if they have agile weapons. So, even if they do ignore you for the second one and go for the fighter without taunting, mind you, they have a way less chance of actually hurting the fighter because of it. And that's if you don't have the stance that just it gives them a lesser cover bonus of +1 AC by being adjacent to you anyway. And that would make the team very hard to deal with. In fact, they can't actually deal with anyone else until they deal with you first.
It's that element that is the because I understand the idea of where a lot of people are coming from with the I wish the Guardian was doing more damage. is the idea of like Guardian. You want Guardian to be the scary thing, so then the GM is like, oh, I have to kill that like now. But that's also like, then you're playing the two roles at once. Because there's a reason why glass cannon builds and like glass cannon things are usually a thing. Because normally the type of rolls that do a stupid amount of damage usually don't have a lot of health to counteract the fact that they do a stupid amount of damage. And yeah, it's also like it's kind of just a more legitimate form of the joke. Like, what is the best support status to inflict on an enemy? Like to save your team? Death. Like cleric cocks gun. Because then you don't need to heal your party if the enemy are all dead. Because that's technically a form of damage mitigation. So like it just makes sense. Like it's the difference of like you don't need to be rolling the big damage. It's just reframing the idea of like the party being alive is kind of like you doing the big damage. But there's also all the cool stuff that you can slot in there to at least do the fun stuff. Because it's like the element where Guardian would be the type of support I'd enjoy. And I'm a DPS main through and through. I only find damage stuff fun. I'm not a big support guy. Because like the idea of playing a Guardian with full-on athletics, just like bully build, like I'm tripping, I'm shoving, I'm making everyone off guard, I'm doing all that stuff. That's great. That's a great form. I'm protecting people, but I'm also setting up other people. Like I'm setting up the rogue to do a perfect backstab. Like that sounds really fun.
Master Weapons at 17 feels bad, not gonna lie. Master Weapons at 15 would be better. No, I mean, yeah, technically it would be better if you would just be doing your damage earlier. So it's like saying, wouldn't doing plus 20 more damage be better? It's like, yeah, of course it would. Yeah, of course that's a buff. But you have to understand why it's balanced this way. As we've just been talking about this entire time, the point of Guardian, similar to the point of Champion, is you improve overall team DPS by preventing people from going down. Because when an ally is down, that's probably 2 rounds, typically, more often than not, of them not doing damage, unless maybe they're a monk. Right? So, it's balanced this way on purpose. It does less damage. It is slightly less accurate. People treat the weapon proficiency difference like you're just going to miss everything now on a 10% damage, on a 10% accuracy, difference, which is just not the case. Your job becomes you strike the mobs, you strike the low-level enemies in the encounter, you strike the -3s, -4s. Your job is not to take the boss down. Your job is to make the boss have to take you down first. And like I said, all that we said without even taunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Dead Phoenix said. So it's just I think the thing is that people want Guardian to be another damage class, which
it's inherently not going to be a DPS class. Like that's just not what it's going to be. And like we can also all rest easy knowing that the Warcry book is going to have other stuff that'll fulfill the DPS stuff. The entire book is going to be a martial book. Because like these are just the 2 classes. There are going to be archetypes and new subclasses and a bunch of new other fun stuff that are going to be sprinkled all around in there that'll fulfill all that other fun goodness.
Oh, Guardian will have a ton more feats. They'll probably have
at least get some
a
new
few
stuff.
For sure, a good handful, and I'm sure they'll adjust some things. I think Armor Break is definitely going to get a rework. I think it
needs to.
It's way too high of a cost to make it useful in any sense.
Yeah, I don't see the use of it at all. It's funny. It's like a really funny thing, and it's kind of one of those things where you're like, you laugh, and you're like, I flex, and I break my armor, and now...
It's like a finisher. It's like you do it at the very end of the fight, pretty much.
It's when the commander has made everyone surrender, and then you flex and your armor shatters, and everyone's like, "Whoa!" Oh god, I'm glad we surrender.
Then we can agree that Ferocious Vengeance is a weird option, specifically on a lower accuracy PC. I mean, the other one is not really much better, to be honest. Just being able to reduce the damage you get from crit is so situational. Vengeance almost feels like the only option you can take. And, I mean, why is it a weird option? Because we just went and explained that low accuracy doesn't mean doesn't hit. So why doing more potential damage is a bad thing or weird? It just closes that gap a little bit more.
And like, I don't know, all I hear when I'm like, oh, so the difference is +2, is just like, okay, so I'm just gonna seek out and like try to make more enemies off guard. So then it's like, and now it's like my proficiency. It's like I got that higher proficiency. It's like that's all that really sounds like. I don't know. I just because that's what the class is kind of built for. It has a lot of stuff about like just grabbing and shaking an enemy. So it's like if you want to hit somebody, just opt into that stuff. Yeah, I mean the it's an element of it being a playtest. It's a lot of this stuff will be retooled, and I think there's some stuff here that does need to get retooled. I think because it's the bit where I think Commander overall feels like a class that's just a lot stronger in its design. Where I read through it and I'm like, this feels like it's just like it's the way you put it. Because it was what I was saying in the chat, but I think you worded it a lot closer to what I was trying to say when your initial like reaction stream. It's like they were throwing less bullshit at the wall to see what was working. It's like they had they were testing less, so it just felt more coherent. Like Animist felt like they were kind of just throwing stuff. Kineticist felt like they were just like really testing stuff.
Yeah.
But then like Commander really felt like it was super strong. And then like with what I keep seeing Michael Sayer talk about, it feels like it's kind of his baby.
Yeah. Here's a good one, though. So, talking about Hampering Sweeps, because Hampering Sweeps has been making waves because of
it has been.
It's just, I wouldn't say inherent OP factor, but it is super strong. So, Hampering Sweeps, or Hampering Sweep, rather, I mean, it's good, kind of. It's a really good corral tool you can use to keep the boss in check, but most serious combat encounters, most dangerous combat encounters, the boss is only going to be one of several threats for your party to deal with, and the other threats hopefully are not like harmless to you, you know what I mean? So yeah, you can corral the boss, and many people have said that they've used Hampering Sweeps on like their playtest runs to essentially keep an enemy, a very dangerous enemy, pinned down while the group deals with everything else. And that's exactly what Hampering Sweep is for. It's really good. Is it broken? Not really, because when you think about it, what are your melee allies going to do? You know, they're gonna want to be adjacent to the enemy so they can strike it too, right? So it's mostly used to prevent enemies from diving towards your backline, or to allow your team to handle a bunch of other enemies first. There's a lot of combat situations where it's just not going to be useful because your other melees are going to want to hit it. Now, if you're like the only guardian on a whole team of range characters, that's really good, but that's a lot of stress because now you got to worry about the enemies that do get past you. And like, in all honesty, enemy adjacency, you are rarely ever adjacent to more than like 2 to 3 enemies in any given combat situation. So depending on your party size and what the encounter difficulty is, you can't lock everyone down, but you can lock down some people. So I think it's a good option. I think it's very solid, and I think it fits perfectly in the class. And Best part is you don't need to taunt, so you get your full AC. So that being the case, I think it works really well, and I think it does a lot of anything. You know, honestly, if the hamper ability was just their class feature over taunt, it would probably make the class even work better. It's legitimately.
Yeah, yeah. Because, like, taunt is a thing where I think the most consistent feedback I hear is that taunt is something that is, you need to know when to use it right. There's a right situation to use taunt. Hampering sweep use, like, that's more reliable to use. Because, you know, a class feature should be something you can use very regularly. If it's a feat, like ability that you gain, that feels like something that should be a bit more like situational, or I will use this in the correct time, and I will use this as it suits my build. I think that'd be a really funny thing if they come back with the actual class and they're like, you know what? What if we did? What if we switched these?
Yeah. Because I can see taunt being a feat, honestly.
Yeah,
It's pretty good,
I-
and it technically
it,
has a feat line you could follow then.
it does. I could like, it reads like a feat. Like I could see that like just dropping like a even just for fighter or in champion and stuff. Like I know that was something we were all speculating on, is what was the taunt like going to be, because just how is it going to compel people to like your GM to hit you? Because I think a lot of people are also approaching this from the element of like the white room combat speculation, and also like GMs who maybe pilot their fights a lot more like war games rather than like well, they're fighting mindless beasts. The mindless beast can't strategize, and more like the GM is piloting every single monster like it's highly intelligent and can strategize. Because it seems like a lot of the discussions I'm seeing, at least the ones that are very bad faith on Reddit, the ones where I was looking at and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Hampering sweep should still, or should have a save for just lower speed or full mobilize. I mean, why? I mean, the whole point is your guardian is essentially holding people back. That's kind of like the idea. If you really wanted to make it a thing where it was more justifiable, like in a play sense, you could say it requires a hand be free, but I don't feel like I don't see the need to like add a save to it.
Not when you're spending an action to like to just lock people down. And that feels very gamey, because like
Well, it's very
like
gamey that they can't leave being around you no matter what.
yeah, I also like am thinking of that only because like having played just a touch of World of Warcraft, I'm like, isn't that just a World of Warcraft like paladin ability? Like just enemies like are hard focused. Like isn't that just how the World of Warcraft taunt worked or something?
Yeah, they have to target you for so many seconds.
Yeah, and like that they just cannot leave like right up in your face. So it's like that feels very like video gamey in that way of like you activate an ability and for a set amount of time they just cannot leave you. And it's like you're using the action and like you have a lot of other actions that you could use. I don't know. I don't think it's that major.
I don't know. Like I said, I've already stated the many downsides of hampering sweeps. Like, you can't use reach weapons because that just gives the enemy more ability to be away from you, essentially. It is not good when you have other marshals, because your other marshals are going to want to be adjacent to hit it anyway. And it's never really going to ever lock down that many enemies. And trust me, no matter how high your AC is, if you get surrounded by the full 8, all your squares surrounded you are full, and all those enemies are like, well, I guess we just gotta kill this guy, you're still gonna have a hard time. Your big feature is actually being able to take a blow for someone else to mitigate the damage that way. So I don't think hampering needs a save. I don't think it's overly broken. It's at most a little bit of zone control. And honestly, like I said, I think hampering would be a better feature than taunt as like an actual class feature. I feel like that would be more fun. And honestly, it would stop a lot of the multi-class cheese that I've been seeing a lot of people talk about. My god, there's so many comments. Let's see. You can hampering sweeps while you are swallowed, and the thing that ate you cannot move. Well, yeah.
That's hilarious.
But see, that's the thing, right? You're inside disrupting the creature's movement. Like, that's the idea behind hampering sweep, is you're moving in a way during 6 seconds, I might add, that's preventing enemies from moving away from you, essentially. So when you're swallowed, you can be like, kick their organs or whatever, you know? And I would stop if I was that thing.
If I was trying to eat something and it started kicking me inside, you know, I would stop walking. I think I'd stand still and try to address that problem. I wouldn't be like, I must attack the healer. I also, I can't be like hampering sweeps is broken, because I hear that and I'm like, that is the fucking funniest thing I've ever heard. Keep it in.
There's a advantage of reach weapons. You can catch more enemies. True. Again, though, you're not invincible. like I said, if you're catching so many enemies, you're just inviting a lot of pain on yourself.
You are, because like it really is a situation where I could see someone being like, all right, hampering sweep, I have 4 guys around me, and then the GM's like, okay, and then it's like crit. It's like, oh, well, I guess you probably should have let them leave. They were trying to run. And then you're looking there like, what if I wrought upon myself? It could immediately get turned against you. So I don't know.
Also, a lot of you are forgetting they are only hampered while they're within your reach. The enemy can shove you.
Oh, that makes sense. I guess if they have if you have a reach weapon, that would help negate that.
No, because well, I guess kind of. It depends, but yeah.
Depends how much they can shove you.
Yeah, monsters do tend, if they are athletic anyway, they do tend to have the ability to have really, really good athletics. So.
Yeah, it's like a possibility, and then it's like there's methods of like working around it, but that specific knowledge of like, yeah, they could shove you, which, yeah, fair enough, like could open up that element as well. And then if you have a reach weapon, that's just a reason to take reach, but also if you're taking a reach weapon, that's also a option of like, okay, but you're also not taking a shield now. So there's a lot of choices that come about from like how you're making those specific decisions.
Oh yeah, and that's also true. I also forgot. Yeah, if you move, also it just ends. So I mean, even more the point, honestly. So yeah, even reach weapon can't help. So yeah, an enemy can just shove you, and then they're all free.
Makes sense. Yeah,
so,
it's easily negatable, I guess.
Not easily. You still need to be shoved, and there's lots of ways to prevent yourself from being shoved. But
stand there.
Like I have not seen a good reason. No one has said an actual reason why hampering sweeps is strong. It's just like this assumes thing that being able to prevent enemies from moving is an inherently strong feature, which it is, but not as strong as I think a lot of people are making it out to be.
It doesn't sound like that crazy.
No, it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's a solid feat. It's really good. But your major class mitigations don't come from just yourself, really. I mean, some do, like your armor specialization. You can stop a dragon from moving. You know what? Actually, that's something I would take, or I would put on it. It can only stop enemies up to 1 size large within you.
Yeah, that actually, thinking about that part specifically, I think there needs to be the caveat of like, it works the same way as, say, like, trying to grapple or like do athletic stuff. Because, you know,
Yeah.
you can grab people, do all that, but if you want to do it to larger things, you need Titan Wrestler. I think having it work the exact same way would be fair. Because if you want it to work against something way bigger than you, you should take Titan Wrestler. Like, have it make the same style of thing. Because you being like to this giant enemy and being like, huh, you can't move, and then it's like, shit, and it's like 50 feet tall and you're like 6 feet tall and it's like staring down at you.
Titan Wrestler does the same thing though.
It does, but I feel like having an extra reason is, you know.
It does come with its own version of Titan Wrestler. True, but that's a 2 feet drop to make Hampering that much better. So I think if you dropped it down to one size larger, I think that'd be fine. Also, Xylem, one of the strongest debuffs in the game for a class that's just a single action with no save has been a thing since the very beginning. Dirge of Doom from Bard, making everyone in their aura frightened, is insanely strong.
Dirge of Doom is fucking nasty.
It's so bad. So no, it's not unprecedented. You didn't say it was unprecedented. You did say usually, which I would say I kind of agree to. But that's definitely not anything they're beholden to do.
Having played with a campaign where a bard had Dirge of Doom, it helped. It did a lot.
Yeah. So I still want to make a fighter who can make use of Dirge of Doom. I mean, you can. It's very late game, but it is possible. But yeah, I just, the thing is I haven't heard a good reason. Like, okay, you don't like the fantasy behind someone stopping it, but does anyone have a mechanical reason why this can't work? Just as is. Because I'm all ears to hear. I mean, we've already talked about how the fact that just shoving the Guardian is enough to make it stop. But, you know, even just without that.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think the caveat of like make it a size thing makes sense. Because in looking at it, in like hearing that part, hearing like the expansion of like, okay, what does it actually work on? Like every single part, it makes sense that like a swallowed creature makes sense. If it eats you, your hampering sweeps inside of it. Fair enough. A massive creature, like a way too large creature, you're like stopping his movement somehow. I feel like there needs to be an upgrade to hampering sweeps to make that allowable.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, again, that's a fantasy thing though. That I'm just purely talking about the mechanical thing, and just the thought of it feels like it's strong is not a good argument. So
exactly, like I don't think there's a mechanical reason at all. I just think the fantasy of it feels wonky. Mechanically, it doesn't seem that strong. It seems like there's a lot of cases where you can use hampering sweeps and get yourself killed. I'm gonna be honest. Or not even killed, just because Guardian can, you know, not like just mitigate damage and just do well, has a decent health pool, decent resistance pool. I think that you'll at least get some hits, because I can see a overzealous Guardian accidentally locking down too many enemies at once and getting its ass beat.
The Phoenix, why doesn't it work on someone who once you're swallowed? I'm curious as to your reasoning. It just feels quite... See, that's the thing, right? No one here has successfully said any mechanical reason why it's actually strong. It's just, it feels strong, or I just don't like the fantasy of it.
Well, actually, would... If you... Wait, okay, I'm reading the right one. If you are swallowed, you're sharing the same square, right?
Yeah.
So if it does move, you're not moving outside of its reach.
But it's if you move at all. one of the
Like until the
prerequisites
beginning of
next
your next
turn or until you move. Period.
foes within reach of your weapon you are wielding or your unarmed attack cannot use move actions to move outside of the reach of your weapon or unarmed attack. If you are sharing the same square and it moves like 5 squares, you are moving alongside that creature.
That's
Therefore,
not
is
what
still
it
within your
says.
reach.
Literally, it says until you move, comma. Moving just breaks it.
Okay. So then, yeah, if you're swallowed and it moves.
Oh, you know what? Actually, it doesn't work because it can never move outside of your reach. Wah,
Yeah, that's
wah.
what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but that's okay. But you didn't address the point I made, which was
What that
moving.
that moving addresses it, but I'm coming at it from like, well, then technically it can't leave like
It can't leave
your
adjacency,
range.
yeah, which is a
Because
different way of saying
you're always adjacent. You're in the same square.
yeah. So again, want. It was funny though to think about.
It's a really funny concept to just be like, you're a hampered motherfucker, and it's like, no, it's like you're inside of it. That's a great idea. But also, isn't there like an entire stuff of like feats or archetypes specifically about like, you swallowed me? Bad idea. Because we saw that with the one monk in our Tuesday game.
True.
That monk had an ability about like stuff he could do if he was swallowed or something.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so literally no one has mentioned yet, other than the fact that they say it just doesn't feel, it feels too powerful. But they
It's a lot of vibes.
They
stuff.
can't mechanically point to why it's actually strong. Don't get me wrong, I think putting a size requirement on hampering strikes is good. But like if your one feature can just be first of all, the enemies are still trying to kill your character.
Yeah, the difference is like like we have level 2 feats that are this strong. I just disagree that it's that strong. Like I just don't think it's that crazy to be like, and you don't move, because then all that really is like, okay, now I'm just gonna try to kill you then. Because like it's good if like you know that an enemy is running, like gonna run away from you to go attack somebody else, but like there's not a crazy amount of situations where, I don't know, like if an enemy's gonna break off combat with you and go run somewhere else, yeah, sure, lock it down, use that action. I don't think it's just that broken. I just don't see the major use of it. Like it's gonna be useful, don't get me wrong, like for like ally repositioning and stuff. It's just you're another method of enemies being able to wail on you and you mitigating damage for your team. It's not that strong. It doesn't seem that crazy. The enemies have ways of undoing it.
Yeah, and again, like there's so many ways around it. It's movement is king in Pathfinder. Yeah, but explain why. If they don't see you due to invisibility, can they move? No, because so like again, you're actively getting in their way. This isn't a magnetism ability. You're actively getting in the way of people trying to leave adjacency from you.
Yeah, it's purely an adjacency thing. It is not a like sight thing. It is you're near them, they cannot leave that area for an action.
And this is also a very interesting case with the Guardian of everyone was talking about how Guardian AC just wasn't great because of taunt or whatever. It's like arguing for convenience, right? Like the AC is not good enough because taunt reduces it, or hampering is too strong because feelings, like when I look at the class, there's so many times I'm looking, I run combats. I've been running games for a long time. And what happens very typically is the enemies will run up and they're currently fighting the person they're currently fighting with. They don't often break away to go attack the squishy people. Some enemies might, but it's very uncommon. So hampering might not even be necessary a lot of the time. And even if it was, the enemy could just turn and attack the character. And, you know, I mean, there's ways you could definitely make your character really, really hard to kill. But there's tons of things the enemy could do to make a better situation out of this. Many enemies have access to a crossbow in their kit. They can just swap weapons and fire, or a short bow, you know? So
It's like the because I've been, you know, playing in these combats for a good long while. And the only like consistent use case I even came up with, like I said it just like a good little bit ago, is the idea of like an enemy without you know, an opportunity attack runs up to an opponent that you don't want to get hit. You run over and they're going to leave, or maybe they even leave. You know that enemy is going to run over and like give chase. You run over, hampering strikes. They cannot give chase. It is a method of no. You're in my face now. I'm in your way. Like, you're blocking off enemies chasing somebody else. You're redirecting their attention. That, I think, is going to be the most useful like case. It is forcing an enemy not to get away of party repositioning. Other than that, I don't see a lot of major use cases, because unless your DM is really gunning for like specific players, because like well of course my wolves will target the healer because the wolves understand who the healer is.
right.
Because then I don't know, your GM is playing weird. I'm gonna be honest. That's a war game. Like, this is a tabletop role playing game. Like, the point of it isn't fully to like play hyper tactically and kill everyone. But like, it's that element. I don't think it's going to be used every turn. There's just moments where using it is going to be like really handy. It's like a different form of a taunt, basically.
If a shove can work, I'd argue an escape should work. I agree, actually.
Yeah.
No problem with that. Hampering sweeps equals superior grapple with no crit chance. No, because they don't become off guard, which is one of the major points of grappling. Anything crowd control based with no saves can quickly become abused. Name how. As I've been asking everyone to do so far. I think Hampering Sweep is a hostile action, so only level 4 invisibility stops it from ending. So that's like 6+ monsters you're stopping. They likely have things to find you. Yeah, I mean, like, the whole invisibility thing is not even that big of a deal. Like, yeah, sure, concealment or hidden is nasty. But there's, you know, the just sheer numbers, depending on how many monsters you're stopping, it's not a big deal. The wolf trainer is ordering the wolves around, totally. Yeah, I mean, in that case, sure. What are we naming? Classes we want to see? Well, I don't understand the question.
We're talking about well, we're intending on talking about Commander and Guardian. We just
talked about Guardian because to be fair, I think it's the most interesting discourse. I think everyone really likes Commander, and I think
because Commander's just good. Commander's just very solid. The only thing I think consistently people are saying about Guardian is that, or Commander, is that like, if they added a little bit more stuff to it, that'd be pretty neat. It's like, yeah, exactly, which is a good case for a class to be in, because everyone can agree Commander's very cool. Guardian, though, needs a bit of adjustment, but I think a lot of people are pointing at the wrong things that need adjustment.
Pathfinder campaigns in general have fairly small rooms linked together. If you bottleneck the room with your Guardian, it means enemies cannot move to hit anything behind him. Yeah, they could just stand in a doorway too. Then the enemy would need to use a tumble through action, which, you know, equivalently, you can beat Hamper by shoving. So, question. Would it be fair for the GM to use such an ability on the players, i.e. party is trying to escape and one is hampered? No. But see, that's the thing. You need asymmetric design when it comes to player abilities versus NPC abilities. Because the GM doesn't have a stake on whether an enemy survives or not. They shouldn't anyway. So, players have access to more instant kill abilities, more stun abilities, than monsters will ever have access to typically.
Yeah, like you as a GM don't have like a win condition. This isn't a PvP game.
Also, counterpoint, if an massive enemy grabs the wizard, what's the difference? Other than the wizard is actually now off guard. Because they can't get away.
Yeah, because they're not succeeding that check unless someone else comes and helps them, like gets them, forces them out. PCs don't have swallow hole yet.
Yet.
A very
True.
scary statement. I gotta be real.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Also, some of the GM's creatures just ignore some rules placed on them anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's also just a thing.
It's just the thing of like, I've heard that stated before is like GM some statements of like, well, it's not fair that I don't have access to some of these things. Like, yeah, that's the point. Because like, you're not trying, your job isn't to kill everyone. Your job is to have the game run. You're the guy running the game. Because like, it's the same way. Like, even the hardest video games out there with the harshest reputation, like, you know, the Dark Souls and all that, as everyone calls anything difficult. Like, Dark Souls isn't there to actually kill you. The game is designed in a way for you to beat it. It's like like D&D and all that, like tabletops and all that. The GM is there to just have the game be run. Yep. So there needs to be isometric design. Like that's just an important aspect.
Asymmetric.
Player abilities asymmetric. Like abilities will always be a bit more player favoring. There are elements of tipping it, so like some scary things will be scary, but at the end of the day, the players will have more things to work with. But action economy always kind of wins in the end.
But the GM can get a guardian enemy. Yeah, they could also have a fighter enemy. I don't know which is worse in my honest opinion. And also, Guardian is actually super weak to energy damage unless they build specifically that way, and kind of against reflex saving throws. There's some stuff that they get benefits for, some not. They're not unstoppable by any means.
Honestly, if people are like out here thinking that like all this is super broken and like just run a game, run a little one shot, run an adventure with one of those like guardian style enemies, and I feel like the players will easily kind of work around it. Because I think it's pretty obvious that like hamper strikes and whatever, like it's useful. It has a use case. I don't think it's going to be broken. I think a player will find a way to work around it. Like, haha, player fighter, you cannot leave my grasp. Power attack. Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So like, again, let me reiterate. How is this different than grappling? Which equivalently does the same thing, only is worse. Because you become off guard.
I think the consistent thing people say is because like, oh, there's no save. Well,
the save is whether you can shove the enemy or not.
Yeah, that's the difference. Is they can.
And there didn't used to be saves for grapples for a lot of enemies in Pathfinder before anyway. A lot of enemies required you hit them first, and then they just automatically grappled you with another action.
Oh, damn.
Not the case anymore. They did remove that, but
I'm glad they did.
And Nicholas, again, you have not told me why it's strong. So, You say if the NPC, if the GM has an enemy that has hamper, is it strong? And no, there's so many ways around it. Also, the enemies typically want to be next to the enemies.
Yeah, when I hear as a martial player, the enemy has hampered your movement, you cannot run away. All I hear is, oh, it's a challenge then. And then I'm like, all right, let's throw down, buddy. I'm not leaving. You don't have to use the hamper ability. I'm going to stand here.
Yeah.
It's a slugfest.
You
It's
chose
like-
this fight. Deal with it.
Exactly. It's like when you watch, if you ever watch a heavyweight boxing match. Every once in a while, you have a match that is just two very large dudes who make that decision of like, you know what? Movement is bullshit. Do you want to just punch each other in the face until one of us falls? That's just what happens for a lot of fights, and it's very cool. And that's what I'd do, because I'm a player character, and the GM decided to use that ability, and I'm like, all right, let's throw down.
Yeah.
Will I go down? Maybe, but I also got a healer probably that'll just heal me, and I'll keep swinging.
Yeah. Yeah. You know. And there's so many, and you know what? Even worse, there's many ways players can force enemies to move.
Oh, so many ways.
So, you know, hampering sweeps is honestly really not that effective. Or at
Hampering
least,
sweeps,
like,
and then,
it can
and then,
be effective. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not broken.
especially for the enemy like GM side, because like you give an enemy hampering sweep, and then the wizard is like, and compelled movement, and there's like,
Yeah.
oh damn it.
Also, another thing, I'm just reading hampering sweeps. The only thing it says is the target in question can't use move actions to move outside of the target's reach. Your ally can shove you out of the reach.
Oh, perfect. Get out of here, wizard! You just push him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Or just
So-
throw somebody. Easy.
So, I mean, like, the more we talk about this, the more I just believe hampering sweep is fine. There's so many ways around it.
The more I honestly am like, we talk about all the use cases of this, the more I'm like, this feat is gone from like, oh, this is really cool, to like, damn, this feat is really situational, actually.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, like, the main feature is you stop an enemy from chasing after someone.
Exactly. It feels like it's just a lockdown. That's all it is. It's you're locking somebody down, and the most common use case I can picture is, you know, that enemy is going to chase somebody down. They don't have reactive strike. Your cleric, your wizard can run away because someone happened to run up to them and is going to punch them in the face. Well, nope, they're going to run. Sure, they can stand in a doorway and prevent running through. Yeah, you can do that anyways without reactive strike, like you mentioned, Cam, because they have to tumble through to even do that in the first place. Since you can't move through hostile squares. So it's like, I don't know. There's just a lot where I'm like, this feat isn't that broken. I've been hearing a lot of people say it is, but it doesn't feel broken.
Question: if you walk into the affected area, are you affected by the feat? That's a good question. There's no requirement that anyone needs to be adjacent to you, so I would say, yeah, it's like a sticky fly trap.
It does. You make it difficult for enemies to move away from you once they have gotten close.
Yeah, once they've gotten close. So
yeah, and then it's until the beginning of your next turn, or until you move foes within reach. There's nothing implying that it's like you target enemies, like all of you within range. It is you have this thing that is active for this amount of time. So to me, all that is like you're making yourself wide, kind of like moving your weapon around, like they look away and you're like slapping their like shield and their armor. It's like not letting them look away from you.
here's a question: if they have enough movement to just get by you, does that count as using a move action if they use it before being in your reach?
Like if they could just run away from you, like run straight through your squares.
Like they have enough movement to go in and out of your zone with one move action.
Oh, you know, that's a fair question.
Because it says they can't use move actions, but they weren't in the zone in the first place, so they're this is I'm glad we got on this topic. I really am. I there's a lot of interesting things about hampering sweeps that I think.
I feel like that's a fair workaround, to be honest. I feel like I would allow that as a like, well, technically this is one move action that you dash in, stab, dash out, like in like one move action. I feel like that's allowable because that just pictures more of like you are fighting a very agile, like fencer style like character. The like lunge in to like a single like rapier twist and then like immediately like dodge backwards. Like
Well,
backflip.
okay, so technically in Pathfinder we break this rule because we're cool that way. You can't break up movement.
Yeah, you have to do the complete move and then attack and then move.
Yeah.
Fair. So what would be the case of, is that just a taunt of the enemy being like, oh, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
Well, I think I think it's fine either way, to be honest. I think if it's just like you become a fly paper trap, I think that's fine, honestly.
I think so too.
And Devin specifically, when it comes to reactive strike, it specifically states uses a move action or starts a move action or continues, like moves through a square. So it does specify both cases. Hampering sweep doesn't, though. Picking up a weapon is considered a move action in the remaster too. Huh, that's interesting. Well, that's fine though. That doesn't matter for hampering sweep because hampering sweep only prevents you using move actions from getting out of its reach. That's the only thing it stops.
Your sword is right outside of the range.
Yeah.
You're like, it's right there.
It's so close.
Like your fingers are lightly brushing your sword. It's like, no.
Rush in the middle of the enemy pack with a tower shield, saying great potential there. Yeah, it's really strong. I'm not saying it's not strong. I'm just saying it's not broken.
It's also like, yeah, sure, like you do that and now you're in there, but also sure you have that. It's not likely you're getting hit. You still are playing a D20 game. Like you are using a D20 and you know what that D20 has? It's got a 20 on it. Like there's just, you're opening yourself up for a lot of hits, and by opening yourself up to all those hits, there's just a chance that you are going to get crit. You're gonna get hit, and like that is a resource loss of your own health. So like even then, I wouldn't say that's a great use of that ability.
Wait, so picking up a weapon is a move action. You can't pick up a weapon while prone. I guess so.
That's dumb.
That's silly.
That's why we ignore that.
We do just ignore that. Tower shield doesn't really work if you get surrounded, does it? There's nothing that says it doesn't, because it doesn't work like standard cover does. You just get cover while wielding a tower shield. So I guess it technically does just work that way. But you're the best to be hit, especially when not using taunt. Yeah, but see, that's the thing. That is a bold maneuver that is going to net you so much damage. It doesn't matter if you're the best to be hit. You're putting yourself in a way where you're taking way more damage than you probably should, which is inefficient. Just because a tank's job is to be hit doesn't mean getting hit is efficient. You're just more efficient than in a scenario where someone else would get hit.
Yeah, the point isn't to take the damage, it's to ensure that other people that really shouldn't get hit are not getting hit. Like, you're preventing someone else from dying, but also you're not going out seeking the damage. Because that's outwardly provoking damage that might not happen. Because what you're doing is you're also taking up the actions that are, you're really, because if like you run right into the middle of a bunch of enemies that are going to then immediately swing on you, you are instead, they could have ran up against you. That's like maybe an action or two of them taking movement actions to get to you guys in the first place. You guys could have set up, got everything ready for like them all to get to you, set up the front lines, and you are activating attacks that might not have happened in the first place. So it's not optimal.
Yeah, and for Karamek as well. I mean, that's why Guardian is good with intercepts, yeah. But for this whole maneuver of run in, hamper all the enemies kind of deal, no, because you're then being forced to heal unnecessary damage.
Because it's specifically that point of damage that might not have happened in the first place. Because you are probably opting in to take attacks, like a couple of attacks that might have been used to instead stride to even get to you in the first place.
And
which is chances to even like crit you maybe.
And while it is efficient to get a bunch of damage on one player, you still need to split some damage. If the player goes down and gains dying, popping up with wounded is not great in the middle of a big combat. So, you know, like it's all about balance, of course. And the idea behind Guardian is taking some of the shots, not every shot on the battlefield. That's not what it's designed to do.
You're taking the shots that matter.
Yeah, that's the big one, is you're taking the shots that matter. You don't need to get that far away to be efficient. You just need to be far away enough from the party for them to not get hit instead of you. But what if they have melee? And also, we're just talking about you taking every hit on the battlefield is not good. Well, yeah, but by the same token, why be guard? We just said that it's good to take the shots that matter.
Champion has methods of tanking and supporting, but Guardian has ways of specifically diving in front of somebody. I don't think Champion has that. Though Champion does have access to other elements. If you want the lay on hands, that's very good, but that's a different thing. And also, like, why be Guardian? Because I want to be a non-magical tank. Because that's the main reason. Because when I read this, I'm like, ooh, non-magical, non-deity tank. All brawn, baby. This is all natural. And then I heavy armor shoulder tackle a guy. That's what I want to do. I don't need to pray for my gains. I just got them. Yeah, the whole like shield block intercept, like there's a lot of stuff that is just really good at specifically mitigating damage. Champion is very good at its own front. I don't think Guardian is going to like supersede or even like, I guess, negate the necessity of like, why would I even take these classes in the first place when this other class exists? Like, if you look at it from a purely build reason, like, sure, I guess, but also like, this is a tabletop role-playing game. You're playing a character, I hope, at the end of the day too. Like, you know, you're if you have a really cool character concept and like your character concept is like you're playing a champion and like you're playing a paladin of a specific god, you know, then you're gonna play a champion. But if you're also playing a character that is a tank, heavy armor wielder, like you're gonna play a guardian. Like that's just how you roleplay. At least how I view it. I don't pick stuff based on viability a lot of times.
I mean, you shouldn't have to, first of all.
No.
The game shouldn't be so hard. You need to play optimally in order to have fun. So
no, this is like a cooperative game with everybody, including the GM. I'm not out here to win. I don't win Pathfinder.
Long and short of it is champion, really good, has good support abilities in tandem with really, really good damage mitigation. Guardian has the best damage mitigation with a more martial kit, making them much better at things like tripping enemies, repositioning enemies, all the other kinds of stuff. So you pick one based on what you prefer to do more. That's just it, plain and simple.
I could say really funny, though,
they're both equally efficient.
Yeah, if your party had both a champion and a guardian, though.
Oh god, that would be so painful.
It would be.
It would just be the worst. Your team would be so hard to kill. and they would take forever to go through combat. So
it would take so long.
I can't give you a challenge, but you guys take so long to fight.
Kill me, I dare you. I'm trying. As you hear the legion of dink, dink, dink as it hits their armor.
I can't believe we talked all stream about Guardian.
Yeah, just rename it to Is Guardian Good?
I just need to remove the commander part.
Yeah. I actually would say, I don't know if you meant to put commander twice, but yeah, just put on, yeah, Commander Guardian and Rogue is fucking nasty. Commander Guardian Champion Rogue is...
Literally, commander in almost anything is just really good. I guess
Commander
not
Guardian was the one... Yeah, not casters, which is my complaint. That's my single complaint about Commander, is I feel like, even though you're playing a martial class, I don't see why a commander who is a very, like, intelligence-based class can't have, like, studied wizard shit to properly order around wizards. Not even saying, like, you have to have a whole feat chain just for casters. Just, like, a couple tactics that work on magic. Because I feel like that just makes sense. Just give me something that, like, if you have a party of, like, 3 casters and 2 marshals, because that can happen sometimes. Sometimes you have a party that has a couple more casting stuff than it does marshals.
Yeah.
So just give me some more casting stuff.
Yeah. They might get more stuff when it comes out.
I would imagine. They usually do. Usually when playtests wrap up, they usually have more stuff dropping for it, because this is not the complete class, like, obviously. This is what happened with Kineticist. They had more stuff, because Kineticist was just the 4 elements. It wasn't wood and metal.
Yeah.
And then Animist and Exemplar, when they did the wrap-up talking about the results of the survey, they talked about how they were adding a bunch of new stuff to Animist, specifically, but Exemplar was also getting some new add-ons, because it's not complete.
Yeah. And that's another good time to state, if you guys do not agree with me, or you think Guardian needs a lot of work, or you think Commander needs a lot of work, go ahead, check out the playtest. It is actually, there's a link available in our Discord, find in the description down below, or below on Twitch. There should be a link. There is a link within that where you can take the survey. Let Paizo know. They really want to know. They have a really good track record listening, and Paizo has not missed with a single class.
All their classes, I think, are very solid, because, like, I remember when some of the last stuff happened. I remember a lot of people talking about how the Kineticist was going to be garbage when it released. Like, people would be like, the Kineticist is going to suck. This playtest is garbage. And then now Kineticist is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not a blaster caster. No, no. It's like,
no.
It's just a really, really good class. Oh, no.
Yeah. Almost like what these playtests are is to playtest. I don't think as many people are doing that right now. It's just all the thoughts people are having about, like, Guardian specifically. Just let Paizo know. Let Paizo know all your thoughts, and they'll consolidate it, and we'll know in a couple months what they actually think about your opinions.
Yeah. And I'm not here, like, I'm challenging everyone's opinion. I'm not saying I'm right or you're wrong. I just want to know why you think your opinions, because that's, in the end, what the playtest is about anyway, is figuring it out. And also, there's a question here. Would multiple commanders mean the party gets a ton of reactions? No. Actually, I did find out that, and this is the great thing. I've actually learned to harness my comments for greater power, because I got a few things wrong on both the videos. What do? They're an hour-long video, and people only complain about a couple things. So I think my accuracy rate is generally pretty good. And one thing I did learn about the commander's feature is, well, one, you can only take one tactic per turn, period. So even if there was the ability, you can only take one tactic. So no, technically.
Aren't a majority of them 2 actions, anyways?
They're a pretty good mix, but I think a majority are too.
Yeah.
They should let shields up use the shield cantrip be cast. Yeah, I agree. We talked about that one before as well.
Oh yeah. I remember that. I completely agree. That's honestly more of my fix. I just think that Commander needs to have some of them just have caveats for spell stuff.
I'm worried Commander would become too dependent on team size to be effective, becoming overtuned in the extremes. I disagree.
They have a limited thing already built in.
Yeah, they
They can only
are.
work on a certain number based on their intelligence modifier.
Well, there's that, but like in addition, the only action efficiency they can really give their entire team is 4 extra actions. So, you know, and that's if they take all the feats for it.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's, if anything, they're just getting more use, and a bunch of extra teammates isn't gonna necessarily really make that any different, because the bonus reactions are very limited. Ready, aim, fire with a party of switch hitters is very bonkers. So yeah, of course. But a lot of them would expend their reactions. And also, y'all have to remember, most battlefields don't take place in a big open void. So you just probably aren't going to have the line of sights required to make uses of big teams as necessary. It's just not going to be a thing. Gotta go, but it was cool picking your brain on the Guardian. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Sorry if you were getting grilled a lot, but you know, we're having a discussion, and I hope we've been able to keep it civil for you. Hopefully you didn't feel attacked. It's just, you know, I want answers for people's complaints, because I feel like if you don't have an answer to that, then maybe there's something we can readdress in what the art complaint is in the first place. Can you look at the plant the banner skill again? I had a question about the renewing each round. It says renewing. I remember your comment. It says renewing. It. I don't know what you think renewing means. Or you're putting it in the weird light. If it was different, it would be worded like they word everything else, where the players keep these temporary hit points for either 1 minute or until they leave your banner, whichever comes first.
Hey, yeah, and then does it work? Temporary HP in Pathfinder work the same way as D&D, where temp HP doesn't stack. You just take whichever thing is higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then every time you just get it's renewed in the way that you just get the you just get that intelligence modifier.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which for most of the game isn't that crazy until like I think 15, and then it becomes like 20 HP, which is crazy. Also, they can just go kick the banner, and if they do, everyone becomes frightened. So it's not like it doesn't have workarounds. But like, what wording? I guess this will be the last thing, and then we'll have to go. What wording are you concerned about? Because the wording says renewing. To renew is to make as new again, which would imply it gives you back the temp HP it would have given you. And if you think that's strong, well, they only get the benefits of the banner inside the banner. So if the enemies move away from the banner, no more banner bonus.
I also, yeah, I mean, it's not even that crazy. I mean, what you get, it's a level 1 feat, but you get like within 30-foot burst, what, probably at max 4 temp HP every turn?
I think it's half your intelligence, so it's 2.
Oh yeah, equal to half, so 2 at max, because I think that most you can get up to like 4 if you're really trying to min max.
No, at level 1, 2 is the max.
Yeah, because like 4 is like what you can get your stat to, so it would be 2. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like 2 is the hit points, 4 is your intelligence modifier. If you're really trying to gun for the highest intelligence. Yeah, because these temporary hit points last for 1 round. Each time an ally starts their turn within the burst, these hit points are renewed for another round. So yeah, it's just they not the duration, but yeah, it's just you get that 4 or those 2 temp HP at the beginning of the round. It's pretty straightforward.
It says specifically, it says these hit points are renewed for another round. So
you just get the
renewed is in relation to the hit points, which they then get for a round.
Because like if you just get 2 hit points that don't refresh, and then you're just like, whoa, I feel like the 2 temp HP that I lost, but I feel like they're here longer. That's not really useful. Just from like a design standpoint, that's kind of a useless ability. But like having if you're within the burst, like the point of it is that like, yeah, you're within that banner, you are getting temp HP at the beginning of the round.
And let's look up the kineticist one, because this is what they're balancing it off of. Let me just go to elements, and it's wood. I do remember your comment. Something blossom. Oh, I'm sorry. It is in wood. I looked in earth because I am dumb.
Wood is a tree, but
what is wood without earth?
Exactly.
I mean,
they're
no
one
tree
in the
can
same.
live, except they do with hydro farming, but whatever. What's the name of the feat or the impulse?
For kineticist.
They brought it up in a comment before. I could just look at the comments, I suppose. Oh, it's the aura junction. You're talking about the aura junction? Wait. I skimmed it because we were streaming at the time. Or yeah, you gain temp HP hit points equal to your level that lasts until the start of your turn. Wait. It's slightly worse. Only slightly worse. What are you talking? What do you mean? You said what? 3 temp HP a round? What are you talking about? You gain temp HP equal to your level.
Wait, equal to your level, and when do you get it? Because you get it at level at like 15. Yeah, getting 15.
Well,
temp HP.
They mentioned 15. You can get it at whenever you can get an impulse junction.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. Like that's better than the kinetic. I mean, the difference is that it's single person and not party wide.
Oh, you're looking at the aura junction. All right, any ally that begins its turn in the aura gains 1 temp H, 1 hit point, blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, but see, this is the thing. Aura junction, there's nothing the enemy can do to stop it at all. This is just if your allies are within your aura. Yeah, I found it now. The aura junction. This is just if they're next to you, just at all, with no requirements. This one requires the commander to plant the banner, which roots it in an area. So if the enemies are just not in the area, your allies are gonna have to choose to leave it to and lose the buff.
Also does that's specifically
not the aura
add the
junction.
thing.
What are you talking? Wait, are you on YouTube? You might be way behind us.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably are.
They're on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, the enemy can just run over, destroy the banner, cause fear to your whole team. Can't use the ability anymore.
And then everyone's frightened.
And also, this is a feat in comparison to a class feature pickup for Aura Junction.
Yeah, like the feat take, I think, is a bit different.
It's a bigger cost. You're comparing apples to oranges. These are not equivocal at all.
Like the similarity is that they both give out temp HP, and that's kind of it.
And to be fair, don't get me wrong, it is a massive amount of temp HP, but it does everything about your character revolves around your banner. So if you root it in place, you can't go anywhere else. Honestly, the banner. Well, I like the use of the mechanic though, because technically you can get this fantasy with the martial dedication to do that same fantasy. So this is just an alternate one based on the banner. I don't know why both can't exist.
Yeah. It's also like the whole thing of like there's a lot of elements with the banner that I enjoy, because it was one thing that immediately I brought up in the reaction stream that I was really excited to see was possible. It's a thing I really love. Polearm, like flag polearms. Like the idea of like you have like your nation's flag, but you also have a spear tip at the end. It's like full on like the best other way I could put it is it's fucking Sin Kisuke from Guilty Gear. Straight up his main weapon is just a flag. I adore that. It's really cool. It looks awesome, and that's super possible. And also then the other element, it's something that gets talked about a lot when it comes to Pathfinder, Samurai. You just have the banner on your back.
Yeah.
Like there's so many like ways of doing it. It's just the whole thing. Also, it means like as a player, you can like create a banner like a herald for either your character, like family heraldry, or even like party heraldry. Maybe you create like a group insignia for your party. There's cool ways of doing it.
Also,
it's I like the idea of like the commander is a method of really like bringing your party together in like teamwork. There's so many cool ways that it does it. It is mechanics.
It's really cool. I wish we didn't talk about Guardian the whole time so we could have talked about Commander some more.
Just gush about it.
Because it's really good. The last thing I'll say to you, Josh, is, I mean, you're comparing a passive feature to a chosen feat, a feat of which comes with a lot of potential drawbacks and a lot of caveats to how it works. And if your reasoning is the reading, everyone seems to agree that the reading works fine. And if your reasoning is the power, then you have to understand that Kineticist is a different class than Commander. Kineticist is not necessarily a built-in support class. The Commander is. So, of course, the Commander would have a support ability that is stronger than the Kineticists.
True. Yeah, and also, you just gotta kick the banner and it shatters. Like, yeah. And also, like, I don't know, the banner, when you pick up the banner, it's not that crazy. It's not that strong of an ability where it's like, all right, pause. This is a little strong. Are you telling me within 30 feet they're gonna get 2 temp HP? Now hold your horses.
Well, they're talking specifically at 15, where it's a difference of 3 versus 20.
Like that's that's fair. That is a big disparity, but also they're just different abilities. Different abilities when one's destructible, one is kill the character, the other one is kill this funny little flag that's just waving there. I can kick the flag. I can't just kick the person. He's going to swing back. He's going to open and harness the elements and make me explode. The flag isn't going to do that.
So, I mean, the commanders all, like, they're just not the same. you know, and I've been doing this a long time. I definitely have no reason to favor a super broken aspects for Commander. I don't see a problem in it. So, if, I don't know. It probably doesn't make you feel better, but that's just my opinion on it. Take it or leave it, I suppose. That's just the beauty of YouTube. 20 HP is really strong, I agree. A lot of this is really strong, I agree. But I don't feel like it's so strong it's broken, because at level 15, 20 damage is not a lot.
No, that sounds like it'll get undone really quickly. I may be resisting half or at least like 2/4 of an enemy attack.
Not even. Like, a fireball at that level on a save probably does 30 damage.
Then I'm resisting a chunk of it.
Like, let's see. Level 15, you have access to 7th rank spells, which is 4 increases for fireball.
Oh wait, that's just my kind of like my damage currently as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? No, that's I can kill 20 HP in a sneeze. As my wizard, it's so easy.
So 8d6 for a grand total of 14d6. With an average of 3.5 per die. So 3.5 times 14. Okay, it's 49 damage. So you cut that in half. It's 24 or 5, whatever, you know? So yeah, one fireball, it's all gone. Also, yeah, you're starting. Well, to be fair, it is a 40-foot emanation, so you're not that close, but a lot of you will get hit. And again, as we said with Michael before, we're not attacking you. It's just you bring your point up, I'm counterpointing. That's it. We can argue about reading, about words, and that's something that, like, one can help or not help, but if it's just power, I don't think it's that powerful. One fireball gets rid of most of it. Most melee at that end game, very, very strong. So, like, if anything, it probably just puts more into aspect that the aura junction for wood is just kind of bad. Because what's 3 damage at level 15? It's nothing.
That is, like, negligible.
The only benefit is you just get it for free. Well, kind of for free. You selected that junction rather than a different junction. But that's going to be it. I know we could talk way more. We went way over. Thinking about using your version of the Songblade. The Songblade's really cool. A lot of my builds are really fun. I really want to get back into making them. I wanted to make my cinematic ones, and I just got super hung up on the quality of it, and it just prevented me from actually doing anything, which is kind of just on me. So, with that being the case, that's going to be it for us. Alex, anything you want to leave us with before you head out today?
Yeah, I got, if you're interested in lore content, swing over by my channel. It's Glue Boy. It's linked over in Cam's YouTube. And, or just look it up on YouTube. It's easy enough to find. I got videos on Warhammer 40k, Vampire the Masquerade, Lancer, and recently Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I have a video on Tian Sha, the World Guide. I cover the lore in that book if you're interested in learning about why you really got to set a campaign there at some point. It's very cool. God, it's such a good world guide. I love that book so much. I'm gonna have more videos coming out soon here, especially now that work isn't absolutely murdering me. Bonk.
Yeah, Oi, man, getting with the bonk as we leave. Cheeky.
Can't believe this. Yeah, yeah, that's primarily just chipping away at stuff on my channel. So if you're interested in listening to some lore stuff, I'm not doing a Lancer tier list. You can talk to Cam about that.
I'll be doing a Lancer tier list eventually.
And I'll never have to worry about it. So yeah, keep an eye out on my stuff.
I will be releasing, hopefully tomorrow if I don't suddenly get ill again, my Tiansha, my second Tiansha video. This one about the character options, looking at what the gods give you and looking at the trials, which is going to be really fun. I really like the rituals. They're super
They're
cool.
so cool. They're so fun. I really love the blind fighting one.
Yeah.
Mainly because I main Kenshi in Mortal Kombat, and I always really love like the blind samurai stuff. It's my vibe. I adore it, and so the fact they just have that there is like I'm so into it.
Yeah, it's solid. And stay tuned if you have not done so already. Like, follow, subscribe on your platform of choice, because I am on the Paizo creator crew. I'll probably get access to How of the Wild at least a little early. So if you want to see the How of the Wild stuff early, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll probably end up talking about it. Also, stay tuned in for next week. In fact, join our Discord, links below, so you'll be made aware when we go live, because we are probably going to have another guest appearance. I won't say from who, just in case things don't work out. But we're likely to have another guest appearance, so if you like hearing some juicy tidbits from various people in the tabletop industry, that is a TableTalk you're definitely not going to want to pass up on. But
I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it too. It's probably going to be one of my favorite ones. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll say goodnight. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.